I don't know, dude.
Do you think if it's more rigid to tap against it?
I think this is just, this doesn't goddamn fit. Get the other blade, the other new blade.
All right, today we are back at the house in Verona that you may have noticed in the last video. We were tearing the tile up in. It was kind of a time lapse, so it went really quick. But this is a house we renovated a few years ago, and a couple episodes back, this is the one that Jaggers and I were trying to repair the floor in. That was kind of bouncy because the tile kept popping. I'll leave a link to that right here if you want to watch that video. So we took the tile up and put this luxury vinyl plank down in its place. And today we're going to be putting the shoe molding down throughout the whole house. And anytime I do shoe molding, I always get help from one person and one person only. We're going to try to do it a little bit different today. If you notice, I don't have my saw set up. We're going to try to do this with only 3 tools. And I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to do our best, because I've never done it before. Of course, we'll have to have a tape measure to measure the molding. I have cordless nail gun to nail it down, but instead of my miter saw, I brought this today. I found this on Amazon, and I've seen some other short videos on Instagram of people using it. I hope that it works, because it'll make this a lot easier not to have to drag the saw around. Lee is usually the cut man for all this, so it's mainly gonna be him using it, so he'll probably have to give a better review of this than I will, but this is what I got. These are basically some shears that are specifically designed for cutting molding. It's got a little thing on the handle that keeps it shut. Release that, opens up. Has a replaceable blade here, and it did come with a couple extra blades. And it has your angles and a little guide. You can alternate this to get the angle of the molding you need. And on a previous video I showed that we only use like 3 angles for all of our cuts, and I'll leave a link to that video here. It has a few tips and tricks on how to put shoe molding down. In that video we were using a miter saw, but it'll be the same principle here. We're only going to mainly use 3 different cuts here. We'll have it set to 90 degrees for all of our straight cuts. We'll set it to 45 for all our inside corners. Uh-oh. What would be the equivalent of a 22.5? They don't have that on here. 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135. What is a 22.5? 90 would be your straight cuts, which is normally 0 on the saw. So it'd be in between 90 and a 45, which they don't give you that.
The 60 might look okay. We can run some tests on that to see.
We're figuring this out as we go. Typically we do a 22.5 degree cut around all our door jambs, but this one doesn't actually have a 22.5 on it. So we're gonna do some experiments. It has a 60 and a 75 degree, and we'll just have to kind of play around and see which one looks better. And we did this house in 2017, I think, or 2018.
Something like that, yeah.
We put the molding down, and I think it took us maybe 3.5 hours.
Maybe
to put
3
the
or
molding.
4, something like that.
We'll say 4 hours. We didn't time it that night, but I do remember we did it all in one night. So we'll say it took us about 4 hours to do all the molding that night. So I'm curious to see like how much faster this will go. We're about to start, and it is actually straight up 11, well, it just clicked over, 11:01. So we'll go by that, how long this takes us to do this. And I'm thinking if these things work, it'll actually cut through the molding and be faster. And a side note, we did buy a PVC based molding specifically so I could try this tool out, or for a couple reasons. One, it's waterproof, and this is gonna be a rental house, and I thought it would hold up better for what they're doing here. And 2, I thought that this thing might cut through it easier, so it'd be a good initial test for it. If you have a real hardwood, I don't know that it would cut through it, but for our test, we're using a PVC. So keep that in mind when you see us cutting through this, depending on what kind of molding you're using. All right, let's see what it does. All right, this is gonna be our first initial cut to see how easy this goes through this.
not bad. It's all at one time.
What do you think pressure-wise you have to put through this?
It'd be hard to say. I'd like a couple more cuts just to kind of see, because I really didn't know what to expect on that first one. So.
I had hopes it was going to go through it almost like a pair of scissors through paper, slicing through it. I didn't know it was going to be this snap, but again, it may be what we're cutting here. Do you think it's easier cutting from the curve side?
I'm not sure. I've only made one cut from the back.
And also, we kind of see if it's a cleaner cut, whether you cut from the front or the back. I don't know if it makes any difference on this, you know?
So here. That looks pretty clean to me. I like that.
Okay, so to not cut on our time too much, I'm gonna go ahead and just set the camera up and run through a few of these and start nailing some down, because I don't want to delay this too much. I'm scared it'll skew the experiment of how quickly we can lay this if I take too much time filming it. So I'm gonna set this up and we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna film a couple of these spots to show what this thing's doing. Some of the spots where it's not doing great, to kind of talk about it.
Okay, I'm gonna have, hold up on that, because I'm gonna have one more section in here, but we'll kind of see how well it does with how many cuts we made and everything, so.
We don't have to use it, I'm just gonna do it real quick while I head it up.
Okay, how much you do whatever you want to, Jason?
All right, I'll do that. One critique we have so far that we've noticed is some of these cuts aren't lining up like this. When we're making the angle, we want an angle this way. We don't want one this way, tilting side to side. And I'm not sure if it's just because it's a little awkward holding the tool straight with such a long piece of trim, or Lee was thinking that maybe it's the blade's getting a little dull, so as he pushes it through, it's kind of tilting a little bit to the side. We're not really sure, but we're getting a few cuts like this. And that's just cause one piece is, this angle's right, but the other piece, this angle's right, but it's tilted a little bit, so they won't butt up to each other just right. And we've noticed it a few other places, like where we're doing our cuts at the end, like these cuts here. I don't know if you can see, but like instead of being perfect like this, it's tilted a little bit like that. Speed-wise, this is definitely faster. Lee's even commented on the fact that it's just not having to go to the saw as much. He's running through this way quicker. We're about 45 minutes in, not counting times for the camera setups, and he's gotten all the big pieces cut in the house, and we're just kind of filling in some of the smaller pieces now. So I definitely think speed-wise, this is faster, but if you're really looking for accuracy, I'm still not sure on that one yet.
Mainly it's the 45s that meeting together.
When you have a long run like this, where you're going a long span and one piece won't do the whole thing and we're connecting to, this is where it's most noticeable. Yeah. On those spots, you really can see that it's not meeting up just right. When it's at the end of a run, usually we can butt those together and we're not seeing it as much. But in a long run like this with a miter saw, it's almost invisible when we put them together. But here, you can tell it. Would you say you might get more accurate with this over time, or do you think this is about as good as it would get?
There may be a combination of things of, you know, maybe waiting and changing to a new blade to get some sections, especially linear sections like this together.
So overall usage, he's had this in his hands for about an hour. I mean, it may even take another house before we could really give an in-depth review on this one. Just first impressions of it though, that's the only big downfall I see is accuracy-wise. I had hoped this would be more accurate than it is. And I think part of that too is the way this thing cuts into the material. Like, I thought it'd be more like slicing it, not snapping it. Because I think it's this snap. That's kind of where you're getting your inaccuracy, because it's not as clean as like a miter saw be, where the miter saw slices into it. I kind of pictured this doing the same thing, and it doesn't do that. And maybe this material, we're going to try to take a piece of the old trim outside, which was, I think, just a pine, and see how it slices through that.
Man, these angle cuts are worse and worse.
You wanna go ahead and swap the blade?
Yeah, I
See
think
if it
so.
makes a difference. Do you know how to take the blade out of
I
it?
do not. I was kind of looking for that earlier. The thing is, no matter how big the blade is, really, you're only using the same section every time to cut it.
All right, our cuts have kind of gotten worse and worse as we've gone along, and it probably is what Lee's saying. The blade's just gotten so dull that it's not shearing it plumb. It's kind of giving that little crooked angle like this. So all of our 45s aren't wanting to line up now. It comes with 2 spare blades. We're gonna swap the blade out and see if that makes any difference, just so you can get an idea if it's blade dullness that's doing this. And we've never done this, and there's no instructions in the box, so we really don't know how to change the blade. We're gonna figure it out right here. I don't know. How do you think this comes
It's
out?
like that one nut on the side that holds it.
You have to take that completely off.
Looks like it to me.
Okay, looks like it's got this one nut here that holds the blade in place. We're gonna try to take that off and see if this slides out. I don't have a lot of tools with me, so I'm gonna see if I got a crescent wrench maybe I can take this off with and swap it. It still seems like it's in there, so I don't know if it's just friction has it held in place or...
So it's got those little grips on the backside of the blade.
Seems like the spring let go. Ooh.
Oh, there we go.
Showing the whole handle came apart when I took that out. I don't know if that was how it's supposed to happen, but you may have to do that to get the blade out. I don't know. If you have this tool of your own and have a different way to take the blade out, put it in the comments below so I know how to take the blade out of this thing. Let's see if he can just take it out because I can't hold this all.
Yeah, I don't see that this is wanting to come apart.
What's this? Nothing? This little square.
That's what I was looking at. This one doesn't have that though. But that's where that piece goes, is like a locator pin.
Can you just push the square out one side or the other?
That's solid all the way through though, that little piece in there.
So that has to come out too?
It's looking like it. You gotta screw
If that's the case, this is a really inconvenient blade change. You can see this little pin here. That's what the screw and the nut were on. It's not focusing very well. There you go, right there. It goes all the way through, and he's pushed it about halfway out already, but you're going to pull this all the way out to get the blade out. The other risk is you're just crimping that thing where it needs to go back in there.
There we go.
Does it slide out easy now?
Let's see.
No.
No.
Just racking it up and down, does that take it out?
I feel like that locator pin is kind of keeping us in place. Let's use the, it's just,
Since we know this blade is dull, can we tap it against something and see if it wedges it out the top somehow? Does it move at all?
I'm not feeling it move.
I'd say we're already about 5 minutes into this and the blade still has not come out of this yet. And again, this may be us just not know how to take it out because there's no instructions to tell how to take it out. I guess I could have seen if there's another YouTube video on this particular one that someone else has already viewed, but I kind of want to see how intuitive it was just to take it out on my own. Like, this is the knife I use on a daily basis. It's just this little Milwaukee knife that has a razor blade in it, and it's got a little notch here on the side. You mash that button and the blade comes out. I don't understand why they couldn't make this thing come out the same way. Super easy, in, out. And if you're gonna have to change the blades as often, it should be a little easier to take it out. I feel like I may just take the needle nose and just tap against this blade is done. It seems like a horrible way to take it out, but since we're thinking this blade's done already and we do have 2 replacement blades, I'm just gonna hit against it and see if it moves at all, because we're not having any luck trying to wiggle it easily and take the blade out. So I'm just gonna tap it a few times to see if the blade comes out. Kind of regret doing that now because it actually sliced into my needle nose pliers. It was that sharp. I guess I could have hit the blunt end instead of the sharp end, but I didn't think it would be that sharp. But it actually sliced into the metal here, and I regret it a little bit now. Which it does seem like it wiggles a little bit.
Yeah.
But it hasn't let go enough to come out. This may be a 2-man job. I'm gonna try to pry it a little bit and let Lee pull it with his gloves on and see if it comes out, because I can kind of put my needle nose in this slot and maybe give it a little bit of room so that the friction lets go. Don't pull it towards your face. Nothing?
I feel like it's kind of
Let me
wiggling
get a little
out.
closer.
Okay.
Please don't slice my finger open. I feel like you're gonna end up stabbing yourself in the stomach.
Yeah,
You
there's a lot
suddenly-
there. It'll be fine. I feel like we need a flathead screwdriver into the top of it.
You wanna try that?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a flathead. You know, the other thing? Take this, let's go out there and just whack this motherfucker against the ground and see if it'll just pop back up this way. I don't even know that you want to film this.
I'm gonna film it just to see.
I feel like you're almost playing like do this and like put your eyeballs out.
I'm not recommending to try this. Go ahead and preface that. By all means, find another way to get this thing out. But we're just gonna try to hit this thing against the ground and see if it comes out, because this blade is done anyway. So we're seeing if it will just let go.
Okay, that did move it some. If you notice, the top is out now. There we go. Okay.
So that did work. We took it and he just whacked it against a piece of wood and it took it out. But we've beat this blade to death just to get it out of place. And I'm not sure why it's in there so tight. Now we're gonna try to put it back together and see how quickly this works. First, he's gonna put the blade back into the slot, just reversing the process, and then get this little pin that's hollow.
That thing is extremely sharp, so.
And we've got to somehow wiggle jiggle it back into place. He's got gloves on, so I'm gonna let him do it. I'm not sure if one way works better than the other. Oh my God.
So sorry.
This is the poorest design I've ever seen. You gonna do it?
This is a nightmare, dude. This is gonna take us longer to fix this goddamn blade than it did the rest of the house. Yeah. Yep. It's not going anywhere.
Why don't we just take it out there to that pallet where you took out the blade out and give it one good tap?
Sure, let's do it. That's it. You just gotta treat it bad.
All right, so we did get the pin back in right there. I don't know if you can see there's a little ring inside there that kind of guides the screw and the nut in place. And we tried delicately tapping it in here like you would think with most tools it would just slide in, so it didn't work. To get the blade out and to get this back in, we had to take it outside on a piece of wood and really just beat the crap out of this thing. It needed to go through there. So now I'm gonna try to put it back together. It's got a square notch on one side and round on the other, so this has a square notch here, so you'll slide it in the square side. And based on everything else we've done with this tool so far, it should go in there really easy. Not even close. It's just like nothing lines up on this thing. All right, that seated in there, so it's in now. I really wish we had timed this from beginning to
It's
end.
120 now.
Do you know what time we started trying to take this apart?
I do not.
I don't know exactly, but I would say we're at least 15 minutes in trying to change the blade on this. Would you say that's accurate or more?
15 to 20, yeah.
And you gotta thread this back on the other side.
That's just getting it back in too, by the way. It took us 15 to 20 minutes to get it out.
Okay, so I think we got it back together the way it was. It feels a little different.
Luckily, we only have about 4 more cuts left.
There's a little spring in here that makes this thing open on its own, And I may have put it in the wrong spot. I think that's gonna make this miserable for you because it doesn't open itself each time. I definitely put the spring in the wrong spot. There's a spring down in here that makes the handle force open. And I didn't really pay attention to where it's supposed to go, so the tool doesn't open on its own now. So if you're trying to change the blade on this, make sure you put that in the right spot. But like Lee was saying, we've only got like 4 cuts left, and we really want to be done with this. So I guess he's just gonna pull it open each time to make his cuts.
Maybe to put it around my wrist or neck.
All right, so we tried the whole house with PVC. There was a few scraps of this wood outside that were from the old trim. We're gonna do one quick test before we go to see if this thing works any better with wood than it does with PVC. Not happening.
No, not going through it at all.
Try it from the other side.
It's actually, you can see it's kind of lodged in there. I mean, it's not going anywhere. There's no hands. No, try from where? The back?
We haven't made many cuts with this blade either. This is the blade we swapped out. I mean, we're completely done. This is the new blade. We've cut like what, maybe
four cuts.
4 pieces with this blade on the PVC stuff. So we're gonna try it from the back side and see if it'll go through that way.
It does feel like it went in a little bit easy on the front, on the first there. It does seem to be a little bit cleaner cut.
It is more of a slice too than a snap.
Snap, yeah. This is going to be at a 45 here. That does seem like a lot smoother cut.
It does seem like it does better.
And especially from the back side on that.
And it seems like the back side would be more like what you're doing with a miter saw, because you'd always put the back side against the rail of the miter saw. That's the cut we got on the wood version. Way cleaner than what we're getting on PVC. You have a cut off of the PVC? And for reference, this is a piece of PVC that we cut. See, it's way more jagged on the back side. It's even worse. All right, again, this is the first day we ever use this, and probably not as in-depth of a test as you would need to know whether you want this thing, but it's not super expensive either. I think this one was like maybe 35 bucks on Amazon. I will put a link in the description below if you want to order this specific tool. They have a couple of different versions of it. I picked the one that had the most reviews on it, and this one was actually pretty well reviewed. Most people said they liked it. It seemed like in the reviews, a lot of people weren't using it to cut shoe molding with. They're using it to cut little transition trims for flooring, stuff that may be a little thinner than this, but this would be the only thing I would really use it for, is cutting shoe molding. I thought it would speed the process up. This is what I think of it. It is way cheaper. So if you're going for price point, if you're just putting a few pieces of molding down at your home, would I go buy a miter saw for that? No, that's really expensive. The miter saw I use, I think, was around like $800 US, something like that. So no, I wouldn't buy that just to cut a few pieces of molding. If you're really doing a one room, this will be a way cheaper option. $35 versus $800. Is it faster? I think we both say, yeah, this is way quicker because you don't have to go to where the saw is. It's less messy for sure. There's no sawdust, because it's more like using a pair of scissors. It's just slicing through it. It's not noisy, so if you're scared of power tools and the sound, we're not wearing any headphones here. There's no noises whatsoever other than just a little snap when it cuts through it. So it is probably a little less frightening than a miter saw would be. You can cut your finger off this thing, because Lee was testing it. It is very, very sharp initially. So if you were to get your hand anywhere close to this when you're holding the trim, you could definitely lose a piece of finger cutting through this. So there is some danger involved, but probably I would say less than a miter saw if you're not used to using tools. Those are the benefits to this. The negatives, it didn't slice as well through this as I thought it would. Why don't you get in here with me, buddy? Okay. It didn't, not this close. It didn't slice through this as easy as I thought it would. I've seen this probably on TikTok and Instagram like everybody else has, and they make it look like it's just cutting through butter, and that would be the satisfying thing about this tool. So, does it cut through as easy as you see it online? I'm gonna say no.
Not on PVC.
This thing does not cut easily through that. And that was with the PVC. Like he's saying, with the wood, it does more of a slicing motion than a snap, but it is way harder.
Yeah, it's a lot more pressure to actually make the cut.
And that's, again, with a brand new blade. I don't know how many cuts you would get on wood with that blade. Like, I don't know how many times it would go through that.
Yeah, we made it, like I said, the last 4 cuts on that single blade. and then spent 45 minutes struggling to get a new blade put in. So take that into
That's
consideration
the
as
other
well.
big negative that I want
Yeah.
to talk about is changing the blades on this is asinine.
Yeah.
I mean, like I showed you before, this is a similar setup. You have a blade and a tool, it comes out. I don't know why that thing wouldn't have the same exact setup where you can mash one button and take the blade out. How long do you think start to finish taking the blade out?
I seriously think close to 45 minutes. We're at 144 right now. We got everything else done, spent 45 minutes doing that. The rest of the house is completely done between 11 o'clock when we started and now. So I would say we cut the time in half. But again, you know, you brought up an interesting point earlier, the caulking that you're going to have to do between some of these joints because of that angled slice on the PVC once the blade started getting, you know, slightly dull.
Overall, the time may not be that much because you had to caulk everything so much
back.
more.
Yeah.
That's the other big negative with this tool is accuracy. I would say is way less accurate.
It's
than a
way
miter
less.
saw.
Yeah, way less.
Again, we weren't using the wood trim. We were doing the PVC. It may be more accurate if you use wood trim, but I don't know how long you would use this thing on wood trim because it took him a lot of strength to push through it, and like it's probably gonna dull the blade pretty quick doing that. So I don't know how much you would cut wood trim. More accurately, yeah, but like I don't know how long it would last with that, and I think you would get pretty tired pretty quick trying to slice through that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I would say so.
I was mainly wanting to get this to show like if a homeowner who doesn't have a lot of tools could buy one of these and trim a house with it.
Yeah.
Probably, I think you can get pretty tired of it after a while.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're cutting wood trim, and this is pine. If you have like an oak trim or something that's gonna be a stain finish, I don't see you're gonna cut. I mean, I don't think you can.
No, you're not going to be able to hide any blemishes or anything like that. So
And you would not be able to slice through a harder surface.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
My opinion on this, would I buy this tool to use every day? I'm going to say no. I would not buy this tool. I don't really see the benefit of it.
No, I mean for bigger jobs, I mean if you're doing a lot of trim work, I mean, and you again can have both. That's really the ultimate to make some, you know, quick small adjustments
Yeah.
and things like that.
You just want to have it in your tool belt as like a little nipper to.
Yeah,
Quickly
you know,
trim.
for under $50, I mean that's a great deal. But
Me personally, I would not recommend this tool. There may be a more expensive version on Amazon. I got this one because it did have a lot of reviews, but just the task it is to change the blade on it, I wouldn't buy it for that. The roughness of some of these cuts in here, we're gonna have to caulk them so much more to fix this. I don't see the point of it. I mean, if you have a miter saw, I would use a miter saw.
Yeah.
It was really nice not to have a whole miter saw over
That's
there that
very
day.
true.
This feels like 100 outside, and it feels way hotter. I mean, there's even a sign that says heat advisory. And that's the big thing is like you'd have to go outside every time to make these cuts, and we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So that was a big benefit. Overall, I would say I would not recommend this.
yeah, same here. Same here. If you can definitely get into the miter saw and you're not afraid of power tools and you're going to be doing a bigger job, for sure, go that route.
There may be a better version of this. I don't know. I haven't seen it. If you know a better version of the same tool, I would like to take a look at it too. So put it in the comments below the version you have that works better than this. I will buy one of those and test it too. But my initial impression of this is I wouldn't have it. If nothing else, I wouldn't have it because it takes too long to change the blade. I mean, you can almost change the blade on a miter saw quicker than you can change the blade on this tool.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
that's it for this one. I appreciate everyone watching, and I hope this was helpful to somebody who was thinking about buying this, and we'll see you next time.